Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She comes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, August 11th. The LA Galaxy 4-0 losers to Seattle on Sunday, a game they probably wish they didn't get out of bed for, but there it was. Lack of energy, lack of speed, lack of decision-making, couldn't figure out and solve the problems that the match provided. We're going to talk about that game, sort of tell you where the LA Galaxy are mentally as they come off of sort of that Leagues Cup high and back down, of course, to earth in MLS. To help me do all that, we're glad to have him back. It's Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter. Kev, how you doing, bud?
So you said it was 4-0. Did Seattle stop scoring now? I was wondering when that was going to stop.
Yeah, it was.
They're done?
It was barely. Let me tell you, it was at some points it was pretty rough. Seattle is a very, very good, mature team, and I know that Maya Yoshida said that. I know Greg said it, and it just seems to be truth. I would like to point out that my soothsaying is just so amazing, Kevin, that at one point when Brian Schmetzer was hired after Siggy Schmidt left Seattle, I said, well, Brian Schmetzer, that guy's not going to last more than 6 months, 7 months at that team. There you go. I just would like to be very clear and transparent with the stupidity and idiocy that continues to come out of my mouth on a regular basis.
Well, you know, the thing with Seattle is everyone looks around the league and they talk about Philadelphia and its academy system, or Dallas and its academy system, or Atlanta and even LAFC, how they've sort of perfected MLS 2.0 and with some of their signings. You know, Seattle really has done it right. And they just spent a whole bunch of money redoing their whole academy and training center, where now everything is under one roof, everyone's together. They've started producing some guys through the academy. In fact, the academy kid scored his first MLS goal yesterday, the fourth goal. And you know, one thing that I've always known about Seattle, what they're kind of proud of, is they talk about, look, we don't go sign big European stars or big South American stars and bring them in. We don't sign Messi and Zlatan, people like that. We bring in players who are good and we make them into stars. And when you see that, I mean, yes, there are a few guys, Jordan Morris, for example, that, are names that you would recognize. But Stephen Fry was a guy that was given up on his previous team and came to Seattle, became a star. You know, they've had a number of players that have not really been super kind of journeymen, and they wind up going to Seattle and they fit into the system. And like you said, they're probably the deepest team in MLS right now. They have some injuries. I don't know if Rusnik, for example, will be back.
So many injuries. So many. Like, you know, if you would sit there and say, oh, you know, Jordan Morris is out, Rusnik is out, and there's a handful of other guys who are out too, right? And it's just like
Stephen Fry.
Yeah, Stephen
who
Fry.
Will be coming back.
Yep. No, I mean, you look at guys that are real sort of game changers, impact guys, and you know, we look at that, Kevin, and we see that, you know, they were perfectly capable of coming out against the LA Galaxy with more energy, with more composure. And again, it seems that no matter who is on that team, one is they reload amazingly well, right? I mean, Seattle never has a down year, and when they do, they still end up sneaking into the playoffs at the end of it, right? They don't have a down year, and their just consistency is so strong. I mean, that's a strong front office. That's a strong culture. That's a strong everything from top to bottom.
They're on their second general manager since the coaching change with Siggy and Brian Schmetzer coming in. So, it's been sort of seamless. As you mentioned before, I mean, they're probably got to be the favorites right now to win MLS Cup, right?
I mean, I don't think people have them as their favorites. I think, they're sort of, people are still waiting to sort of see where it's at. Philadelphia's in there, Cincinnati's in there. Columbus is probably still one of those that you're going to be watching and saying, hey, Miami has to be mentioned, although without Messi, they looked more than capable of completely losing a game. Orlando just beat up on. Was it 4-1? Was the final, I think, on that
4-1,
one?
4-1, and I was listening to the game. I was driving home from covering the Dodgers on Sunday. I was listening to the game, and the announcers kept talking about how Orlando left a lot of goals on the field, that it could have been much worse.
Yeah.
And when you talk about Seattle, so Seattle may not be that supporter shield team that rolls up a lot of points against easy teams. They just win on the field the games that they have to win, and sometimes they play down to the competition, and maybe that hurts them in a supporter shield race. But what was their first Leagues Cup game? 7-0, right? And then they beat the Galaxy 4-0. I mean, when and those are big games. I mean, forget the Galaxy's record. Seattle coming down to LA. It's kind of a rivalry game now. I think it's bigger than the California Classico, for example. And they just, there was no doubt. And then the first Leagues Cup game, that's an important game because the tournament is a little strange. You're playing a team you really haven't seen. You have to sort of lay down a marker, and they did 7-0. And so when the game is on the field and we're not looking at points in the standings and Supporter Shield standings, man, Seattle is just really tough.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle in the Western Conference Finals last year. Everybody remembers that. That was, you want to know when MLS Cup was won? It was not won against, in my opinion, the New York Red Bulls. It was whenever the Galaxy beat Seattle, because that was it's a team that doesn't make mistakes. It's a smart team. You look at the 4-0 win that they had, and there was economy in that. And what I mean by that is Seattle doesn't waste effort. Everything is done sort of understanding the outcome. Again, it's a very mature way to sort of face and play in Major League Soccer. The ability to repeat an effort level that gets you victories regardless of whether you're home or away. And listen, the Galaxy were just completely outmatched in this game. We talk about talent gap so often and sort of looking at that, and certainly I like to point out that a lot of times the Galaxy are the more talented team, and this year it just hasn't mattered for them because they haven't figured out how to win. Everybody on Seattle knows how to win. Everybody on Seattle knows what the effort is, what's expected of it, and how to do that. And then just Brian Spencer is a very ridiculously smart coach, and coaches very well on that. That being said, their ability to rotate a little bit, which is what they were able to do both in Leagues Cup and then come into this, absolutely paid dividends for them on Sunday, because the Galaxy had no more energy left, right? There was nothing left in that tank anymore. And sure, it was my sort of contention, Kevin, that I thought the Galaxy would rotate out of this and sort of be like, hey, it is what it is. It's a league game. The league isn't that important for the Galaxy right now, so rotate out of it, give people some breaks, and do the whole thing. I'm sure they thought that the Galaxy, that Vanny thought that the best way to sort of continue the progress and things that were happening. And imagine if this happens, by the way, I can imagine people losing it, because that's what would have happened anyway, is that, the Galaxy are playing really good in Leagues Cup and they come into this game and all of a sudden you're going to rotate out of it and then they lose, right? Well, staying there with that team and seeing the legs and just seeing their inability to sort of figure out Seattle and that, just they never matched the intensity of that match. They never found it. They never found the speed that they needed to in that game. They were playing with plenty of speed in Leagues Cup, not against Seattle. Seattle scared them and played them right off the field. And I don't think that's something that we should be surprised at, because the Galaxy, when playing against some of the better teams in this league, in Major League Soccer, have had problems. But this is also a game, in my opinion, that sort of falls in those 4 or 5 games where the Galaxy were non-competitive, right? I don't even throw the New York Red Bull one in there that was 7-0, right? Because that was more like tactics, throwing stuff against the wall. There was a reason for that. There were some other games. I think the Vancouver game, perhaps. You certainly look at the Seattle game. There were a couple games earlier that just where the Galaxy just never were on the same page, never played, and just got played off the field. This was one of those games.
Well, you talk about the conference final last year. Remember, Seattle eliminated LAFC in the conference semifinals. Then they come in and play the Galaxy. One of the, you talk about Brian Spencer. He is a great coach. He really is. And he's as good as he is. He's probably underrated. The thing I remember about that game, and by the way, trivia question, that was Ricky Puig's last game in MLS, last game anywhere, really. But what I remember is how well coached they were. They just totally took Gabriel Peck out of the game, and he was so hot coming in. that totally took him out of the game. He was a non-factor, and I know he's had some good games since then where he's been active. He hasn't scored many goals, but that kind of was the start of Gabriel Peck being maybe a human after all, because he was just doing everything coming into that Seattle game. And again, he's had some good games. He just has maybe had a little bit of tough luck. He's been active. It's not like Seattle actually took him out of the game. I don't even know how many touches he had in that game. He was a non-factor. He's been a factor in games, but that's really sort of the first time that Seattle game, the conference final, where Gabriel Peck was not the main mover of that Galaxy offense. And in a lot of ways, I don't think he's recovered.
Gabriel Peck had a good second half of last year. He did not start the season well, and everybody was looking at Joseph Paintsel sort of in that. Then whenever we're looking at 2024. In 2025, he was thrust upon as having to carry the team because you had Joseph Paintsel out, you had Ricky Puig out, you had Marco Royce out at one point. So he has sort of had to heap that on his shoulders and take that. I don't think he's done well with that. But look at this game. You said that Seattle has, I'll say it, Seattle has Gabriel Peck's number. 2 touches inside the box per Mr. Alex Ruiz, as always, keeping track of that. Seattle did so well because they have physical center backs and physical outside backs that still have speed. They were able to take the LA Galaxy's weapon of choice in Leagues Cup, which was through balls on the ground to get Peck and Paintsel back behind the back line, and they were able to take them completely out of that. And so great game planning in terms of how it is. But, I mean, the Galaxy also just completely went away from trying to find those balls through on the ground. Galaxy would get to the edge of the box and sort of collapse and start passing backwards and sideways. It's the same things we've seen. When they play bad, they play in a pattern of bad, right? And so, you could see it developing. You could sort of see it going down the bowl as we were looking at this game. As soon as you saw the first goal in, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. You could just feel that it was going to be one of those games. The Galaxy were sort of trying to match. I think Maya Yoshida even said it. He said he thought that they did okay until that first goal was scored, and then that was it. And when we've seen the Galaxy play really bad, the first goal gets scored on them, and they go in the tank. And this one in particular, I think they didn't have the energy to sort of try to match that and come back. Then the second goal comes in, that type of thing. Eventually, it ends up being 4-0. These are games that we've seen. This is a repeated record that we have seen of this LA Galaxy team when they play poorly, certainly. And so the 4-0, let's get to the lineup so that way we can talk a little bit about that. Mostly unchanged lineup. The only thing that sort of came in was Amiro Garces. And I will say, if you want to talk about somebody who has had a really good Leagues Cup, Amiro Garces is one of those guys who has had a really good Leagues Cup. So if you take him off the field, already things change a little bit. Zonka and Yoshida end up playing in that center back position. So Aude, Zonka, Yoshida, Cuevas, Mitrovic in goal, Fagundes, Cerrillo, Royce, Paintsel, Nascimento, and Peck is your starting lineup in that. And that's where we go. Without Garces in the lineup, the LA Galaxy are slow on defense, and we know this. We've watched that. Injury update for Garces, by the way, Kevin. I can give it to you. Greg Vanny gave it to us after the game. Garces cleared his X-ray and cleared his MRI, so there was nothing that they found in either one of those that was going to cause any problems. So it's just dealing with his ankle as a contusion. That contusion, basically a bruise, and so it means as soon as it doesn't hurt him to stand on it and work on it, that he's perfectly capable of getting back on the field. Vanny said he thought he would be 100% by the time that they play in Leagues Cup next week, and they would sort of figure out what to do with him against Miami. Basically, I think if you read between the lines, we're probably not going to play him against Miami because why would we want to do that whenever this Leagues Cup is coming right behind it, right? So that was Garces. But you put Zonka and you put Yoshida in there next to each other as older guys, they're just not as fast. You get a little bit of speed with Cuevas starting on the right-hand side, and Cuevas over Yamane is still a thing that we're sort of watching here, Kevin. And then you get Aude on the left side, which is a technical, quick player who at most points last night I felt was matching at least the intensity Seattle was trying to play. If there was one guy who I thought matched the intensity, it might have been Julian Aude. But yeah, that's sort of the lineup. Cuevas has been the big story in Leagues Cup, right, Kevin? He's been coming out, he's been putting crosses in, he's been sort of creating and doing the whole thing. when I saw him starting against Seattle, I said, this is going to be the test to see whether or not Mauricio Cuevas is ready. Also, the joke in the press box was you should have sold Mauricio Cuevas after the Leagues Cup, right? Because that was my big joke that everybody got mad about whenever I said that if you have a guy who has a lot of buzz, Kevin, sell him now. That's sort of the idea is sort of behind Mauricio Cuevas. If you want to get something, somebody would probably take him right now as, a development piece. Maybe you could put some money in the cash drawer with that. But Mauricio Cuevas is big issue. And the reason that he was not starting at the beginning of this year is defense. The Mexican teams didn't make him play any defense. Seattle made him play defense, and they were able to bust through on his side a couple times, more than a handful of times. So we're still in that development mode for Mauricio Cuevas. He did not have a good game. But by the way, nobody else had a good game either. So I don't know if that's sort of anything to watch for that side of things.
One thing I think is interesting, and I write about this in the Times tomorrow. I have a story that'll be up online tomorrow morning, talking about how the Galaxy, without question, it's fact. You just look at the table. The Galaxy is the worst team in MLS, right? They have 3 wins. They have 16 points. They're at the bottom of the table. Season ended tomorrow. They get the wooden spoon. They may get it anyways, but they're the worst. But at the same time, the same team is one of the best 4 teams in MLS. We know that. That's also a fact because only 4 MLS teams advanced to the quarterfinals of Leagues Cup. So the Galaxy simultaneously are the worst team and also one of the 4 best. And how do you reconcile that? Well, Maya Yoshida did it yesterday when he said it depends on who we're playing. He said the Seattle Sounders are not a Mexican League team. They're really good. And so Greg Vanny talked about that a little bit too afterwards when you asked him, how do you reconcile these two things? And he talked about how, he said some things that to me didn't make a lot of sense or didn't hold up to scrutiny. He said, our squad is not that deep and we have to play physical games, a lot of games in a short period of time. We can't do that. We can't rotate. Well, yeah, maybe the physical part works, but they played 3 Leagues Cup games in the span of 8 days, and they outscored opponents. I think it was 9-2.
Yeah, did they rotate in those games?
Did they rotate?
Yeah.
Well, Cuevas played a lot. I know that. And Nascimento played a lot.
Yeah, they didn't rotate. That was sort of what he was. I think that's what he's trying to get is that they don't have the ability to really rotate that much, right?
Yeah, and as I read that, it means we got to play our starters all the time, and they can't play that many games in a short period of time. Well, they just did. And I asked Will Kuntz about it. And by the way, a little news here. Will Kuntz told me that with the I think there's 11 days left as we speak now, no less. It's about a week and a half in the transfer window. He said that he does not expect the Galaxy to do anything in the transfer window. He said something would have to happen first. I think you talked about it earlier. They'd have to clear somebody before they could bring somebody else in. So Will Kuntz, the team that you have now on the field with the Galaxy, is the team that they're probably going to finish the season with. He doesn't expect anything to happen. But one of the things he talked about was, look, we just took longer to gel than we thought. The team that we have now is the team that we thought we would have to start the season. The team that played in the Leagues Cup, that's where we expected to be at the start of the season. We weren't. There were some reasons for that. And he talked about, the midfield. We just lost too many players in the midfield, and the midfield is the center of, it's the heart of your team. And when you hurt when the midfield is not gelling and not playing well, and you don't have a deep midfield, then you're not going to have a deep team. Well, Will Kuntz, you're the general manager. You're the guy who traded 2 midfielders. So again, when you look at the I don't want to say excuses.
Tell the whole story. Why did they trade 2 midfielders?
Well, the 2 that they traded, Gaston Bergman, who was the MVP of MLS Cup, really didn't play that much. They did lose with Ricky. With Ricky, they lost 3 of their top 5 midfielders in terms of starts and minutes. When they lost Mark Delgado, Gaston Bergman, and then Ricky Puig with the injury. So that's like losing 3 of your 5 starting pitchers if you have a starting rotation. So yes, it's going to hurt. So, but Greg, because of the MLS salary structure and because of the bonuses played for MLS Cup, he didn't have to move players. He had to move salary during the winter. And so the way to move that salary is he moved Gaston Bergman. Probably a good call because he had injury problems.
Only played 1,200 minutes, I think. Listen, Bergman ends up being the hero of the 2024 season because he's able to come on for Ricky Puig, and the Galaxy were a deep team last year, Kevin. I mean, that's sort of the thing. Getting Gaston Bergman off the bench was a big deal, right? Because you had this experienced guy, you could do it. But with the 1,200 minutes and the injury concerns, that was sort of one of those things that took it in. Yeah.
And then the other guy they moved was Mark Delgado, and part of that was because he was a guy that was out of contract, and he was able to get a new contract, a richer contract from LAFC. So it was good for him, and it was good for the Galaxy to move that salary. But Will Kuntz did move midfielders, and then he's complaining about not having a deep midfield. The one part of that equation is he really thought that Marco Reus was going to be able to play from the start, and he wasn't. And it wasn't until April and May, really, that Marco Reus sort of came into his own. One thing that's interesting with last year's team, 4 players scored 10 or more goals, right? First time it's ever happened in MLS history. This year, the leading goal scorer is Marco Reus. He has 5 after 25 games. They're not going to get 4 guys to 10 or more goals this year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it'll be that's a total different thing. No, I mean, and this is stuff we've talked about ad nauseum. Just looking at the midfield and what they had to do was that you can't always get rid of pieces you don't want. And this was the big, again, I feel like I have to talk about this every year, but that was one of the reasons I said that Mauricio Cuevas would be perhaps a good move that the Galaxy can make if they were going to do something this summer. Somebody might want somebody at the right back position that has the abilities to go forward, like Cuevas. Maybe he's more of a right wing back than a right back just straight up. But there's value in that for that. There was value in Mark Delgado going to LAFC. Not that there was a huge market, perhaps, for Mark Delgado to go with places. But bottom line is that, they were going to get sort of the best deal from that, from the move to LAFC and clear the salary so that way they could end up, going the way that they did. It was fun. We were talking about this on the Discord. This season is paying for the sins of the last 6-7 years, where there was instability, poor roster construction, and sort of the inability to set things in the right way. And even whenever you have to look at Greg Vanney, and whenever he was GM, right, whenever he had to do that, is that there were mistakes made there, and you can't just sit there and say, it's just because the Galaxy knew they had a chance in 2024 to do something, right? And if you are in MLS, and it is any team, and you think you have a chance to win an MLS Cup, in the environment that they were in, knowing the roster restrictions they were going to have in 2025, they decided, let's go for it, because this stuff doesn't come back. The fact that there are 30 teams now in MLS, Kevin, and it's harder and harder to win a championship. So you have to have a good team. You have to have a deep team. You have to have a team that stays healthy. And then you have to have the luck sort of potion of that sort of carries you into the different matchups all throughout things that go. The stars have to align for you to be put in those places. And the Galaxy decided that they were going to go all in. That's bringing Marco Reus in and doing all the stuff that they did in 2024 to try and secure an MLS Cup. Well, now you're paying for those sins, right?
And if you say if Will Kuntz holds to that and doesn't really make any moves at the window, and I don't think he will, he's keeping his powder dry for the winter, because the Galaxy have 11 contracts that expire this winter. They only had 2 or 3, I think, last winter when they had to make all those salary cuts, which is why Will Kuntz's hands were really tied, and he couldn't get creative. There's a number of things he couldn't do. And this year, 11 contracts expire. Some guys have options,
right,
but their contracts are still expired. I mean, we were talking about Fagundes, Nascimento. He has an option to buy, but his contract expires. John Nelson, McCarthy, Ramirez, his contract expires. Cuevas' contract expires. Barry, Gino Vivi, Tucker Lempley. I think there will be a lot of movement in the offseason. It's interesting that McCarthy's contract expires, because right now, today, as we speak, the Galaxy have 3 MLS starting goalkeepers on their roster. And our thought was all along that they'd move one of those to a desperate team about this time of year and get something back. It looks like that's not going to happen, because if McCarthy's out of contract without an option, it's probably likely the Galaxy don't bring him back. And now they lose that goalkeeper. They were kind of holding on to 3 goalkeepers, I thought, to make a deal. Now that MLS can make trades inside the league, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, and the Galaxy are going to sort of lose the option of doing that once the season ends.
It's like you said, I believe 2026 is going to be a more flexible time for the LA Galaxy, as you pointed out, with the contracts and everything else, the general allocation money. The bottom line is I think they were paying almost $1 million to Kevin Cabral's salary, and people are like, well, who cares? It doesn't hit the salary cap, because it doesn't. But that's still cash outlay that, you have to put out, and you have to write somebody a check for, and you're giving them money. And so that's just in general terms of you trying to do something, that's $1 million. So just trying to sort of put those pieces there. looking at the midfielders they brought in, if Sanabria could have adjusted maybe a little bit more quickly, and people I think are certainly in the overreaction mode on Sanabria. He's a 21-year-old midfielder playing outside of his country for the first time, and you're sort of settling him in, and you're like going to be like, this is a guy. Dejan Joveljic was very much similar to that. Right. You lost, and I think the Discord did a good job of saying you lost the middle players, right? You have guys who are like, you have young players, Kevin, you have old players, and you have guys who are in their prime. And you pay the most usually for the guys that are in your prime, right? Those prime players. They're the ones who have to carry, you're looking at, and even Peck's a little young, but like Peck and Paintsel and Puig and Delgado are sort of prime guys, and those are in the center. They're going to cost you a lot of money, but those are the guys that you expect to play the most. And the Galaxy lost a lot of that center, sort of, we'll call it the middle class of Major League Soccer. You lost that middle class of sort of doing that. And when you lose that, if you can't afford to go and get it, which the Galaxy couldn't afford to go get it, you do things like buy young, right? You look at Nascimento on loan. You look at Sanabria, buying him, bringing him in. At 21 years old, Lucas Sanabria still has a lot of development to do and a lot of learning to do in terms of what Greg Vanney wants and what the LA Galaxy wants and what MLS is and all these things that are sort of coming at it. So Sanabria is not a bust yet. Otherwise, Dejan Joveljic would have been a bust early on. You have to give time for guys to develop. Julian Aude starting to come into his own again. Again, a younger player, you're sort of waiting for him to develop. You're doing that thing. What happens is, if you're real good about this, Kevin, you get club-friendly contracts for those guys who are sort of in those prime years, right? Maybe 23 to 27. And then that allows you to go and create depth at other places because they're sort of on your good side contracts. The Galaxy went young with like Sanabria and Nascimento and some of the younger guys like Winder, on that side. But they also went old, right? Because you have Zonka and you have Yoshida and you have some of these guys who are a little bit older in the tooth. Even McCarthy's sort of on that other end where you go. Well, the younger players and the older players are always the risky ones, right? Marco Royce is a risky signing, right? Because he has injuries, he's older, he has a lot of miles on his legs, all those things. So you're taking higher risks on those sides of things. So those are the ones that you're going to miss on. It's going to be the younger kids and the older guys. You're hoping that center that you fill in, Joseph Paintsel, Gabriel Peck, even guys like maybe Diego Fagundes, although Diego Fagundes starting to move into that older player sort of thing too. You're hoping that you get production out of those guys. And that's where the Galaxy, I felt, lost their mojo.
A couple of interesting things about these contracts expiring in the season coming up. One is Fagundes. I think he's been real useful. He has a lot of versatility, moves around. Great guy in the locker room, from what we hear. A real team leader, but he makes a lot of money, and
yes.
He's not going to take. I don't think he's going to be in the Maya Yoshida camp where he's going to take a substantial pay cut to come back. So he's going to be a tough guy to sign. John Nelson, I think, has been an excellent signing, but with Yamani still around and Cuevas coming into his own and Julian Aude playing really well, maybe John Nelson's a guy that they just don't have any room for. I think you have to bring Nascimento back. I think you have to try, if you can afford it, you have to try to get him signed. But the interesting thing is the sort of wild card in all this is Phil Anschutz. And the reason I say that is, if you remember last year, Will Kuhn said, look, Dr. Phil, we're going to go out and spend a lot of money on these transfer fees. We spent over $21 million for Yamani, Peck, and Paintsel. I'm not coming back to you every winter asking for more money. We're signing these guys to long-term deals. They're going to be here. This is the investment for now. So does he go back to Phil and say, you know what, I need a little bit more money. Look how bad this team was. And then Phil Anschutz could say, the team sucks because you made bad signings and you're not getting any more money. Or does he say, I see where the needs are. Yes, we have to give him more. It's gotten more competitive. A lot of this is going to hang on Phil Anschutz, I think, whether he frees up some more money or whether he tells to Will, like you said, this was going to be it for 5 years. You're going to have to make it work.
I'll tell you why I don't think he's going to have a huge cash outlay. And the reason is that the Galaxy have their designated players. Ricky Puig isn't going anywhere. Gabriel Peck isn't going anywhere. Joseph Paintsel right now isn't going anywhere. Unless they move one of those guys, there's no big money to sort of go out and try to purchase somebody. Yes, if you move some U20 guys, U22 guys, perhaps you could do that. Maybe there's some TAM guy. There's some TAM that frees up, so that could cost, there's acquisition costs and that type of thing. I just don't see the Galaxy going to Uncle Phil unless they move a designated player and saying we need $10 million in order to make something better. The cash isn't the problem. I don't think the cash is the problem. The big problem is Ricky Puig isn't playing this year. in all of the scenarios that the LA Galaxy ran for 2025, Ricky Puig was part of that, right? And then you lose a designated player. And there's no way in Major League Soccer to replace a designated player. There's no roster mechanism that allows that to happen. By the way, the Galaxy can't even bring Ricky Puig back onto the roster right now because they don't have an international slot. So we should find out here relatively soon who the roster. The Galaxy have 14 international players right now. They are playing on 11 international slots because 3 of them are not eligible. Ricky Puig is one, Gino Vivi because he's playing down with G2, and Aaron Bibu, who they loaned out, I believe. So those are the 3 of the 14 that were that take up international slots, but there's 11 international slots, but those don't count. But in order to get Ricky Puig back on, the Galaxy need another one. If you want to know whether or not the LA Galaxy are getting Ricky Puig back, either somebody's got to go somewhere, and I looked at all the internationals again, and I'm like, well, who are you going to move? Here's the list of internationals right now. Julian Aude, we won't even count Aaron Bibu, Amiro Garces, Zonka, Mitrovic, Nascimento, Paintsel, Peck, Puig, who needs one to come back in, Marco Royce, Lucas Sanabria, Gino Vivi doesn't count because he's out, Mickey Yamane, and Maya Yoshida. Which one of the guys that I mentioned are you moving in order to get an international slot that are currently putting it? So you're going to have to go out and buy one. Well, when's the time you're going to have to buy one? It's probably going to come up here pretty soon that the Galaxy are going to have to get that. So they're going to have to spend $220,000, and who knows whether or not my guess is that's 2026 Jam general allocation money and not 2025 general allocation money, because I don't think there's any general allocation money there to go out and purchase. So that's something that still has to happen too.
I think Ricky Puig would be smart to get a green card. And I don't know if he even thought about that or tried that. He spent so much time back in Spain rehabbing. That would have been the time to do that. I think there's a lot of, you and I talked before the show started about when is Ricky coming back. There's been some sort of hints on social media that could come back at any time. There's only, as you mentioned, 9 games left. And then we don't know how many in Leagues Cup and Campeones Cup. Potentially, I suppose there's 13 games left in the season. He could get on the field at some point for that. There's 2 months left. I think there's a lot of pressure on him because of everybody's been saying, oh, well, the Galaxy are not playing well because of Ricky, and Ricky's the big piece, and he's the straw that stirs the drink, and all those kind of things. And all of that is true. But what if Ricky comes back and needs a couple of games to sort of ease into it? What if he's not 100% when he comes back? I just think there's a lot of pressure that people are going to see Ricky on the field and expect they're going to win that game 7-1. And that's a lot of pressure to put on Ricky Puig. It's unfair, but I think people are going to judge that and say, oh, the Galaxy really need more than we thought they did because Ricky's just not the same guy.
Yeah, I mean,
remember when Sebastian Lletget came back from that long layover? And that's part of it too. It's not like the guy had turf toe and missed a couple of weeks. This guy's been out almost a year now. And the same with Sebastian. He kept getting delayed. And when he comes back, Sebastian turned into a national team player again. So he got back to where he was, but it took a while. It wasn't like the first half that he played, he scored 8 goals. It's going to take a while.
This is my public service announcement, not to follow people on Twitter or anywhere else who are overly exaggerated whenever it comes to Ricky Puig. Ricky Puig put out a Instagram post that was like, I'm coming soon, right? And the whole deal. And he put some pictures on there, and Ricky's been training with the ball, and we sort of know that. So, if I'm guessing Ricky's about 3 weeks, maybe less from him returning to full training. So, I mean, that's what it feels like. Greg Vanny said it would be months, not month, weeks, not months, and we're into months. And we're basically into that 2-month range here in the next couple weeks. So we're kind of right where we thought we would be whenever all was all said and done. So yeah, I expect Ricky Puig to come back, and then the Galaxy have to figure that out. And listen, Ricky Puig joined the LA Galaxy in 2022. They weren't great in 2022. They weren't great in 2023. They were good in 2024. They were good without Ricky in 2024. Whenever he didn't play, remember there was an argument that the Galaxy play better without Ricky Puig. I remember hearing and making some of those arguments. I understood why people said that, but ultimately it developed into things. And the other thing is now the LA Galaxy have sort of tried to develop how to play without Ricky Puig, and whenever he comes back, he is so disruptive, both on the offensive and defensive sides. He's so disruptive, they're going to have to learn how to do that again, right? How to play with him again. So all of this means that Ricky Puig plays this season. And I think people sometimes get it twisted that he shouldn't. I don't think that does him any good. Not saying to rush him back, because apparently I have to say that every time I mention this. But Ricky Puig plays this season, and you need to get him back. And he needs to go out there, and he needs to play with the guys, and it's going to give a boost to the guys, and it's going to give a boost to Ricky and sort of get him right, because there aren't going to be that many games left. And when there aren't that many games left, that means that's the time that Ricky sort of has to sort of put it together. So, yeah, I mean, you can look at that and certainly say the Galaxy still have some work to do. Again, the loss to Seattle is not indicative of the season, because we haven't seen the LA Galaxy get played off the field more than 5 times this year. But as I think I was trying to lament to you before we even started, how does a team that was quote-unquote competitive in the majority of their games this year have 16 points from 25 games? Sit 3 points from the bottom of the league.
Well, the bigger question is they played so well in Leagues Cup. I mean, I think, and maybe Maya Yoshida is right. Maybe it's the level of competition.
You should listen. You should listen to Maya Yoshida. All right. Yes.
Yeah. So Tijuana, Santos Laguna, those are all teams that made the playoffs in Mexico. So we anticipated they were going to be good competition. Maybe they weren't as good as we thought they were going to be, but they played so well. Again, the Galaxy won one game. What was it? 5-0, and another game 4-1 or
5-2, 5-2, 1-1, and 4-0.
4-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they scored a lot of goals, played really well defensively, and then they come into the Seattle game. The expectation was they built some momentum. Maybe they're not going to beat Seattle, but be competitive. And 4-0, it wasn't nearly indicative of the character of the game. It was much more one-sided than that. I think they got outshot something like 28-8 or 24-8 or some astronomical number. So it just, there we go. What does
24-8. 24-8. Yep. Shots on goal, 8-3. Yeah, total passes for the Galaxy won that. Good job, everybody. Congratulations. Total crosses, again, 5-3 in terms of the LA Galaxy. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, again, I was, and I asked Greg Vanny this, my first question in the post game was, it seemed like you guys never got out of first gear. Is that Seattle? And the answer is some of that's Seattle. All right. And every once in a while you should, as fans, step back, tip your hat and say Seattle was the better team. And they were. That being said, the Galaxy didn't put up a fight. All right. They rolled over on this one. And it's happened a handful of times. But that hasn't been the case for most of these games. Most of these games, we're sitting there watching, and the Galaxy, it's 1-1 going into the 80th minute, and then the Galaxy give up a goal, and they do something crazy or stupid. I was sort of looking at the different reactions around the league, and this was from MLS, and they're like, Seattle Sounders might be the deepest team in MLS history. I saw that. Matt Doyle had the LA Galaxy in power rankings at number 23. He says, LA Galaxy, he goes, crushed on Sunday, obviously, but that doesn't totally overshadow their excellent Leagues Cup showing and the fact that they're 5-3-4, basically a playoff team over the past 2.5 months. Kevin, when you and I were sort of talking about that, and I'll get to the second part of that as well, too. I don't want to gloss over his footnote on that. You and I were sort of talking about just what has changed since May, because the Galaxy have been a better team, going 16 winless.
Which is why the Seattle result is an outlier to me. It's what totally unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, yes, unexpected, but also probably expected. Again, where was the rotation? That's why I thought we were going to see Harbor Miller and Tucker Lepley and, throw
Well,
in.
we did see Lepley and Winder and a bunch of other guys.
Lepley didn't make
eventually.
it in. Lepley didn't make it in, but Winder did, and you got Nelson in and that type of thing. But they just didn't rotate. And, if that's a mistake, then that's a mistake. I understand the complaints if the Galaxy don't play those guys are so large that everybody freaks out. And so I understand sort of the want to sort of shield that away, but you got to make those decisions sometimes. The other part of Matt Doyle's thing, he had a footnote under the LA Galaxy, and he goes, I'd feel so much better about this team, speaking about the LA Galaxy, both short and long term, if Greg Vanny had any sort of development track record with young CBs. Maya Yoshida is just about washed, and Zonka is turbo washed. Where are the answers from within? Why have the Galaxy never been able to solve this? I mean, Bruce Arena got AJ De La Garza and Maya Yoshida, and Omar Gonzalez together out of the University of Maryland, and then paired them together for the next 9 or 10 years, right? So even Bruce didn't have the development thing figured out, but he found his center backs and he stuck with them, and was able to sort of play that out from those positions. I mean, there's a defensive issue, sure. There's also a midfield issue with Cerrillo still, I think, trying to learn how to cover and work with the center backs, because one of those goals was on Cerrillo not following his guy back. It was Ferreira who had sort of ducked out behind the back line. and Yoshida had to go wide to cover, and it was Cerrillo's job to get in on Ferreira, and Ferreira was able to get the ball, shoot. There was a rebound in there, and that's how they got that goal. Another guy we haven't talked about is Novak Mitrovic, because I thought he had a poor game in this game. One, he was under pressure, and I thought his distribution was crap. And then the other part of it is that I think it was the second goal, the one where Julian Aude ends up getting the own goal on the back post, is Mitrovic had every chance in the world to come out and grab the ball and just didn't. Again, I think indicative of the LA Galaxy being a passive mess against Seattle. But Mitrovic hasn't solved problems. And when he goes up against a good team like Seattle, apparently shrinks from the contact and shrinks from some of the challenges. I did not think it was a good game for him. I thought he was timid and shy, and that was sort of what we saw at the beginning of the year, where he didn't come out and didn't want to go after stuff. Seattle must have done something to him. Greg Vanney did not rotate in Leagues Cup by putting McCarthy in. They've been trying to give Mitrovic all the development that he can possibly get. And in my mind, against Seattle, huge step backwards. Greg was asked about it afterwards, by the way, and said it was one of the things that sort of stuck out to him. So maybe I'm off base, but you can't look at that goal on the back line there and the back post and say that Mitrovic didn't come out for that.
I think at this point he starts the rest of the season because he needs to develop. He needs to get better. He needs to get experience. The stuff that John McCarthy has. It's not going to matter whether the Galaxy finish with 3 wins or 4 wins or 5 wins. It's not going to change much. I was thinking maybe when they go to Seattle, maybe you put, John McCarthy in there playing against, in a big environment against Suarez and Messi. No, Mitrovic needs to see that kind of opponent, and he needs to. If he gets blown out 7-0, he gets blown out, but he'll learn from that. One thing that Will Kuntz did mention, he said, if you had told me that we'd be at this position in the season and still have a chance to win a CONCACAF Champions Cup position, which if they finish in the top 3 in Leagues Cup, they need. Essentially, they need 2 more wins. They need to win their quarterfinal. Then they need to win either the final or the third place game. Right. If they get to the final, they're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup next year, which is amazing. They could actually win hardware. The last team to have a season like this and win hardware in 2013, DC United set the MLS record for a 34-game season with 3 wins, worst ever. 16 points, worst ever. They won the U.S. Open Cup, finished last where the Galaxy are now, won U.S. Open Cup with 3 wins and 16 points. Guess what? The Galaxy have 3 wins and 16 points right now. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, it is. And again, so you have the quarterfinal matchup against Pachuca coming up. And again, that game is at 8:45 p.m.
And then they might see Seattle again.
Yeah, they could face Seattle again. So you could have you have LA and Pachuca there. Then the semifinal is the winner of Seattle and Puebla, and then it's Toluca and Orlando and Miami and Tigres on the other side of things, right? So that's how that lines up. So if you get through the semifinal game, or even if you lose that semifinal game and you get tossed in the third place game, there's still a chance the winner of that third place team goes to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And that's what the LA Galaxy are trying to do. Because as they stand right now, Kevin, by everything that I know from this year's tournament, the LA Galaxy will not qualify for Leagues Cup next year because they are outside of the top 18. All right. So I
wanted to talk a little bit about where they are. At 3, 15, and 7. Last year, you talked about what a magical year it was, and rolling the dice and doing whatever it took to make that happen. Wilkins was absolutely right in the front office, and everyone was right to do that. Last year, 19 wins. It tied their best ever in the modern era. And we talked about the modern era. I think it was 2003 is when it changed, where you used to play, there was no such thing as ties, and you played, a penalty kick until you finished. So the modern era is really different. So 19 wins, that equals their best ever. 63 goals is third best ever in the modern era. 64 points, second best ever. That was last season. Then you look at this season, 8 wins is the lowest the Galaxy have ever had. So with 3 wins right now, the Galaxy have to win 5 of their last 9 games just to tie the worst ever. 18 losses.
Are you going by points, or what are we going by?
No, losses right now. Just 8 wins. 8 wins is the lowest they've ever had. They have 3, so they have to win 5 of their last 9 to tie the record for, or the lowest ever for wins. 18 losses. That's the worst ever. 2017, 18 losses. They have 15 right now. Mm-hmm. They can only afford to lose 3 of the next 9 games, and they'll tie that record. 32 points is the worst in the modern era. That was 2018. And we're talking about non-COVID seasons, right? Because the 2020 season was shortened.
Right.
32 points. They're at 16. They need to double their point total in the last 9 games to avoid being the worst team in Galaxy history. I don't think they're going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, looking at sort of where everything, 2017, they had 23 points at this point, so they're 7 points behind that. 2007, they had 24 points, so they're 8 points behind that, right? So you were seeing that that's sort of stretching. Now, if you go to the actual tables,
they're on pace, by the way, to get 22 points. They're at 0.64 points per game, so
yeah,
they're on pace to get 22 points. I know you'll get to this. The 52 goals allowed, they're on pace to get to 71.
Here you go.
The best ever.
70.7. 25 games played right now is 70.7.
And there's the goals you see would be on pace for 38 goals. The worst ever was in 36, which is in a 30-game season. That was in 2009. That was a Beckham and Donovan team, but they only played 30 games. And they're on pace, as you showed, 70.7 goals. The worst ever was 67 goals. So they're on pace to break that. They're on pace for a lot of dubious records this season.
2022, if you play that out to 34 games with the amount of goals they were giving up, is like 71 goals. Right. So, like, technically speaking, the worst defensive year was probably 2022 in that COVID shortened season, because if you extrapolate that out, that's wherever you get into like the 71 type thing. No, I mean, it's not good news for them. There is no good. That's why
I don't think they win the wooden. I don't think they win the wooden spoon though.
They can get away with it.
They trailed St. Louis by 5 points. I think they finished last in the conference, which is a big deal for the Galaxy.
Right.
They don't finish last. The Galaxy do not finish last. And they can finish second to last, but they do not finish last in the conference. So they trail St. Louis by 5 points. So they probably will finish 15th in the Western Conference. But Montreal and DC United are ahead of them by 3 points.
Yeah, 19 points.
I think Galaxy catch at least one, probably both of those teams.
And the Galaxy also, unfortunately for them, the rescheduled game in Houston now means the Galaxy have a game in hand, which at this point where they're at is actually worse than not just having played the game, because the point total is suppressed, right? Because you're one game back. And so it looks like the Galaxy may on the very last day of the season be able to finally like pull back ahead and get above, Montreal and sort of DC United for that like wooden spoon race. But because they have that game in hand, which will be made up in September, it sort of feels like, again, maybe they go to Houston on the run that they were on and maybe they win that game, or maybe they don't win that game, or maybe they do something, but the points would already be there. So now the Galaxy are looking up, and it's almost like, they're being held underwater at this point, because they have, that one game in hand. Could be an extra 1 point, or it could be an extra 3 points for them, but it's going to sort of, it lowers them a little bit. And when you're chasing where they're at, they want to see progress. You want to chip away and you want to get above, and you get that momentum, and you can sort of feather that up. Not that it matters, by the way. By the way, somebody said, I think the Galaxy are already eliminated from postseason. They're not, but that could happen pretty close.
They can't win the division or conference, and I think they're one or 2 points away from not being able to get a home playoff game. They have been long ago eliminated from Supporter Shield. So, yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah. And it's in mid-August, so that's not, or early August still. That's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not good. There were no good performances that I see on this. Marco Royce almost had a 7 there. Joseph Paintsel almost had a 7. Gabriel Peck is fun because, for a while there we were sort of watching the Galaxy turn all these numbers green. That has not been the case. Certainly wasn't in this game, so that one's over. How did everybody think the ring distribution went? I know there were only 5,000 given out, but it seemed like it was pretty well in order. I know that they opened the season ticket member gates 30 minutes early, so season ticket members certainly got the priority of the rings and all that. So I hope it did. Listen, there is certainly an understanding, Kevin, that next year, because most of the giveaways, it seems, have already been bought and produced and all that stuff for this year, but for next year, that 5,000 is too low a number, and I think everybody sort of understands that. So I think that there is an understanding that will be upped. But I did, Kevin, get a ring right here. I have one, and super stoked that we got it. I will tell you this: it is not one of the 5,000 that was given out. There are, a handful of extras that are sort of made for marketing, like they give them to the players and that type of thing, that they can do. So I have one, and I said that if I got one, I would give it away. So we are going to give a ring away for somebody who didn't get it.
Thank you, Josh.
No, you don't get one. You don't get one.
Oh man,
You have to take your Shohei Ohtani World Series replica
I did
ring.
get a Shohei Ohtani. It was in the same box, I guess.
Yeah,
the same
company, right?
Exactly the same. Yeah.
They're all making it. So I do have.
Well, Kevin
here.
Acevedo can send me. Kevin Acevedo can send.
No,
me
he's
one.
not. You don't get one. You got to show up. That's how this works. So I do have one. Yeah, people were saying much better organized. I did see that line, by the way. God bless you, wonderful people for waiting in that line. That line went from the tennis stadium, Kevin, wrapped around the press box, like by the press box, went all the way down the concourse. Went all the way down the concourse, turned the corner, and basically was right behind Victoria Block, where I finally saw it like end.
Wow.
And when I walked in at 5:30. I had to walk through that line. I got to see a whole bunch of people. It was great seeing everybody. I was cheering for all of you, so I hope you all got it. But basically, the season ticket members got in. There were probably only like 500 rings that didn't go to season ticket members whenever you look at that. And by the way, I'm okay with that. I believe season ticket members should be rewarded. I would also say that several season ticket members came up to me after the game. I was walking back to the car, got to say hi to some people. And they were like, we'd pay for these. Like, if you just, if you want to charge us like $12 or 50, we'll just buy one in order to like absolutely get one. Like, that's not a problem. Like, then I don't have to wait in line. You can ship it to me or something. Like, they would do that. So I think there's going to be some options for that. And I think the LA Galaxy
is that why the game started late? Did they hold up kickoff because of the lines outside? Okay.
They didn't hold up. They didn't hold up kickoff. It was an FS1 game. So
because it says 7.
Yeah, I know. And then did they ever put the actual kickoff times next to any of these?
No. Well,
yeah.
and that hurt me because, as I told you, I was covering the Dodgers on Sunday, and it was a wild game that went very late. And I was actually thinking about going from Dodger Stadium straight to Dignity Health Sport Park to see the Galaxy game, and that was my plan. And you and I talked about that. And I got to my car in the Dodger Stadium parking lot at 6:30, and thought, there's no way I can make it in a half hour. And then with traffic, if I would have known it was actually going to start at 7:30 or later, I might have actually tried to make it.
We did, by the way, I want to point out, because the chat room is sort of bringing it up, was we did see eBay posts as I got up to the press box. So I got in at 5:30. I walked upstairs. I sat down, and the first thing somebody showed me was a phone with an eBay post for like $220 for one of those rings. So yeah, of course, there's always going to be people who go out there, and some of them are going to be season ticket members. I'm sure some people got their rings, turned around, went home, right? Which, by the way, the way the game ended, maybe it was a good call. But yeah, so I think everything is. If you want to win this ring, we will hold this open all the way until Friday. You have to give me your first name, your last name, and your email address. And you're going to send that to cornerofthegalaxy@gmail.com. I will put all of you in a random drawing, and we'll pick somebody. That's how it works. It's easy.
Who's going to pick it out? Who's going to pick it out?
ChatGPT. It'll be great.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We just put all those in, do randoms, like the whole
I
deal.
think you should write notes with everyone's name and have your kid pick it out of a hat or something.
That sounds like a horrible idea. By the way, big weekend for my youngest. The Jakester had himself quite a fun time, and I'm glad we can sort of transition it a little bit out of this. So the Seattle game is over and done with. The LA Galaxy get ready to play Miami. Now, the Galaxy are heading to Miami. Miami lost 4-1. Leo Messi's not playing. So the Galaxy are heading to Miami with a chance perhaps to upset Miami in Miami. Could be a big game. We're looking at highs in the 90s and the humidity is probably 200%. That's normal. So we'll watch that game on Saturday. But I'm here to tell you, Kevin, that the LA Galaxy senior team is going to play Miami, but the best LA Galaxy team is also going to play Miami. I'm talking about the undefeated LA Galaxy team that is heading to Miami, and this all goes into my wonderful weekend as well. But the LA Galaxy Unified Team Special Olympics is headed to Miami to take on Inter Miami, possibly to see Leo Messi playing, all those fun things. And the Unified Team, amazing, invited me down for training on Saturday, and I got to bring Jake with me. And so the Jakester got a new Ryzen kit that we went to the team store and purchased for him. He got a Ryzen hat that he was all excited about. He got the white kit as well. He got the training jersey, the green-gray training jersey that he got there, which he didn't really want, but I'm like, you're getting it because you need all of these to wear all the things. So, the just getting to do that was awesome. And then I got to go out and talk to Coach Chris for the LA Galaxy Unified Team. I just want to start by saying this is an amazing program, and it is so much fun to be around these athletes and the partners. And how it works is it's a Special Olympics setup. By the way, I was told that Herbalife is really probably the main reason that this team exists, right? The sponsorship money that they're able to get, but also the LA Galaxy Foundation and the LA Galaxy putting effort and stuff into this. I mean, they're out there training on the fields. So they were getting ready for their match in Miami. And I got to talk to Coach Chris, and I got to talk to Micah, who's one of the partners. And so there's adults with special needs, right? And then those are the athletes that play. And then there are adults without special needs that are the partners, right? So there's this mix that happens all the time. You have 6 athletes with 5 partners, and that keeps that mix of 11v11 on the field. But they go out and they play. And talking to Coach Chris was just a ton of fun. Seeing somebody as passionate about what he does, and sort of molding these wonderful athletes into, the LA Galaxy. And Coach Chris, Kevin talks about how, they play the LA Galaxy way, right? They're trying to go out there. They're trying to, create space by movement and all the things that they're doing. And these athletes are out there, and it was funny. I got to talk to, Anthony and Kenny. So Anthony Giannis and Kenny Brito are both athletes. And it was fun to talk to them, Kevin. One, talked about their position and sort of where they're at. But, what's going to happen in Miami when you go? We're going to win. We're going to win. This is going to be fun. We're excited, but we're there to go to work, and we're there to score goals, and we're there to win. If you are headed to Miami, I implore you to please stay after the game and watch these wonderful athletes play on the field, because the LA Galaxy Unified team is a pretty special place. And if you get to hang out with any of them at all, I would encourage it. So, it's one of those things that I think is a pretty cool thing. I have some audio that I can play from it, and this is the only one of the thing. It was really windy out there, and I didn't realize it was that windy, but I'd like for you to hear a little bit from Coach Chris, just about, what he's doing, and how he sort of does it, and what the LA Galaxy Unified team is. And I really want to make sure that, that this is, this is something that I think LA Galaxy fans can sort of get behind and support, because there is going to be a game, I think, coming against Colorado, Kevin, and they're going to. So after the LA Galaxy play Colorado, the Unified team will play after that, and so you can stick around and you can watch and you can cheer those guys on. So,
and I've seen the supporters do that, stick around and watch, and that's amazing. I really think that's a great thing that those guys do when they stick around and cheer these people on, because they're playing just as hard as Gabriel Peck, and sometimes maybe harder than some of the guys on the first team.
Leaving it all out there. All these athletes are doing that, all their partners, and just wonderful. So here's Coach Chris a little bit, just talking about, what the LA Galaxy Unified team means there.
This is LA Galaxy Special Olympic Unified Soccer Team. This is our 10th year going. This team is comprised of 11 athletes and 10 partners. So athletes are adults with special needs, and partners are adults, most adults, without special needs, and they play together on the field. On the field there is a ratio that I have to follow. 6 athletes at all times have to be on the field, and 5 partners, and so I can't go off that ratio. And so the program is. It's kind of, I always say it's like almost like a big brother, big sister type program, and the goal is for me is for somebody to come and they not know anything about the program, is see us playing like one team, and they don't see anything different than they going to a regular game, and and that's like playing unified, and so that's what our team is about, and sports is kind of makes it easy to have. It's a good conduit for the disability awareness.
Yeah, so that's Coach Chris talking a little bit about that. I was just sort of taken back by the teamwork that everybody has, and how nice it was. They were nice enough, Kevin, to let us have Jake come over and actually get in the huddle with them and help them break out for their training session. So that was really good. Micah Castillo is somebody there who's a partner, and is involved in this, and just talking to him in terms of what he sees from this team and sort of what he's doing. I asked him sort of how long he's been doing it, and he said this is his first year. So here's a little bit of Micah, and I think that the audio is probably good here for a little bit, and then I may have to stop it as it gets a little windy.
This is my first year being a part of the Unified team. I didn't have too much knowledge coming into it, but after learning about what it was, and learning about the contributions that I could do personally. It was something that I didn't want to pass up on at all. Getting the opportunity to join the team and making the team was a huge honor on my behalf. It was something that I never thought would be possible, given that have not been surrounded by soccer too long in my life. But knowing that I could contribute in maybe just other ways besides my pure skill, it was something that I really wanted to give my all in. And since joining from day one, it was an opportunity that I wanted to take advantage of. And I think personally I've been able to capitalize on as much as I can and helping the team in any which way that I can.
And so again, it's about partners and athletes. There was two amazing athletes that I got to talk to, and Anthony is a forward, Kevin, and he told me, and because it's so windy, I can't quite, I don't want to play it. It'll be annoying to anybody who's listening. We're already right on the edge with some of these. But Anthony told me, he goes, I asked him if he scored any goals, Kevin, and he was like, not yet. And I go, well, what position do you play? He goes, forward. And I go, do you feel like one is coming? He's like, oh yeah, one's coming, right? so Anthony is locked in. So for Anthony, I'm super hopeful. Kenny also talked to me a little bit at one of the athletes, and he plays defender. And I asked him about sort of the Miami trip, and what he thought about the Miami trip, and he was excited to go to Miami. He's been to some other places. He told me he'd been to Las Vegas. I think he said he's even been to Miami before, but he's excited to go to Miami because they get to see the Miami team. And part of this is that they get to do an outing or an experience with the other unified team, and they get to know some other people. So he was excited about that, but he was excited to play, at the stadium that Leo Messi plays at. They were excited to sort of go to Chase and do all this. So again, I can't thank the LA Galaxy for allowing me to come out and talk to everybody, but the LA Galaxy unified team is on the top of the best LA Galaxy teams out there right now. I think they lost one game this year. I was talking to LA Galaxy president Tom Braun. He said they've lost one game, but that was a game that they lost against the Galaxy U15s. Right. So these guys are getting some real training out there and doing some real stuff. And so I can't be a bigger fan of the LA Galaxy Unified team. And so hopefully we'll be able to do some more in there, and I'll get the audio dialed in. But thank you to Coach Chris and everybody who stopped and talked to me. It just couldn't have been more fun. And quite honestly, Kevin, I sat there, and my wife went up with us as well. And I looked at her, I said, if I had more time, I think I'd be up here, because I could definitely see what everybody gets out of this. So amazing.
Tell
athletes.
everybody again about if they go to Miami, where they can see how they can see the game.
So if you go to Miami, just stay in your seats. They will play on the field after, or they're supposed to play on the field after. I also heard, and I believe this is the case, I'm going to get this, but Kevin, I believe there's going to be a live stream of the LA Galaxy Unified game after Miami, and so I will share that so way people can watch it there. That's in the price of admission. Yeah, yes.
It's not a separate ticket.
It's not a separate ticket. You just stick around and cheer on those guys. I know it's going to be hot. I know it's going to be all those things, the type of things that you're going to get from Miami. Adam, by the way, $5 super chat. Any targets for goalkeepers? Mitrovic's contract expires, although most people see him as a starting goalkeeper in MLS. I cannot see it. Certainly a question mark, I think. Let's see. What else do we have? I know we had some other ones in here as well. I wanted to make sure I got to all of them. Have you been watching any of this, the referee drama that is going on, Kevin? With
our stuff.
Yeah. What have you seen from some of that?
Well, it just social media stuff, and we don't even know who's posting it. That really, I mean, it's on the referee and his family's accounts, but
yeah, there's controversy that Pro is actually investigating. By the way, I just say that out. Pro today they announced, or at least there was an announcement from who is it out in Philadelphia? I can't remember. Why can't I remember? Jonathan Tannenwald out in Philadelphia. Tweeted out today that basically Pro is investigating Tim Ford, and basically on social media posts and some other things sort of showing that Tim Ford at LAFC games and all that sort of stuff. So there's listen, I don't think anything's going to come of this. I know people are sort of up in arms and some of this stuff. I will just tell you that, take everything with a grain of salt on this, but they are going to investigate, it seems like, which is interesting. I'll tell you, it sort of makes me feel like MLS is a big league. Kevin, if they're having to investigate, referee, issues like this, that it almost seems like the MLS has arrived.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of bothers me seriously when we talk about whether or not MLS is a big league, and I think by all measures, it's one of the top 5 professional sports leagues in North America, or certainly in the U.S. Is this weekend, if you probably know, we had a woman umpire in Major League Baseball, Jen Powell, for the first time. She umpired 3 games between the Marlins and the Atlanta Braves. She umpired home plate yesterday, and there was a lot of stuff written about it. Oh, baseball's the last team, the last league to get involved in this. Actually, they're not. NHL still has not had a woman referee, but NBA started in 1997, and then the NFL in 2012, and now here's baseball. Hey, guess what? MLS had 3 women call as center referees call MLS games in 1998, and for the last couple of years, I think maybe 4 or 5 seasons, they've been ubiquitous as assistant referees. Catherine Nesbitt actually was the assistant referee of the year a couple of seasons ago. She's done 2 World Cup finals, so. I was really kind of offended that MLS was ignored in that, because they have been pioneers in this too, and I think they deserve the credit for that.
Raphael, by the way, also commenting about the new goalkeeper next year, right? Mitrovic isn't it? Again, I think it's a reaction to what we saw on the field, and whether or not that means whatever it means. Mitrovic is going to call into question. I think anybody's going to get called into question after sort of that Seattle game. So. That's sort of.
Does he go to camp? Does he go to camp next year fighting JT, or is JT out now and it's going to be, I don't know, Bradley? Is Bradley Scott? Is he going to be the guy? Brady Scott. Is he going to be the guy?
I don't know, and I would also say that John McCarthy going somewhere might not be it either. I could see John McCarthy coming back on a club friendly option in some ways.
Jonathan Klinsmann.
No, I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. But no, I could see, so I think that there's still flexibility in there. So that's sort of one of those things that you can sit there and look at. It is a goalkeeper thing, and there are 3 of them. Technically, there's 4 that eventually has to get cleaned up, because you're not going to carry 3 again for next season. So however that ends up, I think the Galaxy gives them options with Mitrovic. I think Mitrovic could probably be sold back to Europe. I don't know if you get all the money that you had for him, but I imagine somebody's going to pay you something for him to be able to take him back. So, maybe you sign Mitrovic and then move him. Maybe that gets you the money that you want. But something has to change there. I think that, you're going to have to look at center backs, because Yoshida and Zonka are getting old. And I think that that's sort of one of those things that's going to be quickly determined to be a point for the LA Galaxy, or at least certainly something to focus on. So yeah, that's sort of what we said. By the way, we should mention the 2005 team was there on the night, celebrating 20 years since the MLS Cup win in 2005. Unfortunately, they got to watch that game. They had this nice little corner seat that they had them all set up for, and then they got to watch that stinker of a game. So something that I didn't exactly enjoy. All right. Anything else you want to talk about, Kevin? What else
I don't want the show to end on a high note with your report about the Galaxy United team. So I'm going to bring up some negative news. The crowd the other day, or Sunday, was 18,000 and change. It's the 5th crowd this year at 12 home games of under 20,000. Attendance is down about 15%. The average attendance right now is 20,704. If it stays there, it'll be the worst attendance average for a season since Dignity Health Sports Park opened. And again, 5 of the 12 crowds under 20,000. That's just another way this has kind of been a season to forget for the Galaxy. And they're coming off an MLS championship where they averaged, what was the crowd last year? They averaged 22,550 last year. So.
I mean, I'll say this.
No bueno.
It shouldn't surprise anybody that attendance is down when you look at how the LA Galaxy have played, right? I mean, you mentioned you took 5 minutes to tell us all about how the LA Galaxy were the bottom of the table in 17 different ways. It is. That's where they're at. I will also say scheduling has been atrocious this year. How many Sunday night games have the LA Galaxy played?
Again, last night, 7:30 on a Sunday. That could have been a 4 or 5 o'clock game.
This could have been a 4 or 5 o'clock game, right? Again, just going to the Leagues Cup and watching this game. We're going to go at 8:45 again. And that, by the way, that's 8:45 start time, which means kickoff is 8:55. If the game in front of the LA Galaxy goes into penalty kicks, that could push that start. I'm hoping for a 9:01 p.m. start. That's really, I want to go after 9 p.m. That's what I've requested. If we're going to get ridiculous about it, let's see if we can get it past 9.
You know what that reminds me of? When I was a kid and my parents would take us to the drive-in movies, me and my 2 sisters, we'd wear our pajamas because we were supposed to fall asleep during the movie. It's a drive-in. It starts at 9 or 10 o'clock, and then they could just, roll us into bed when we got home.
Right.
Maybe a lot of kids should come, or adults even, come to that game in pajamas. Maybe the league will get the message.
I
That's
thought
a little
about
bit too late.
I was there. By the way, Mr. Provino, Matt, who tracks all the attendance in the league, would also like to point out that it was 22,000 last year with a Rose Bowl game, and there was no Rose Bowl
No,
game
actually, I did. Unless that person has done the math.
Matt has done the math. You should.
Because I got it at 20. So Matt, I have it at 26,135 for 17 games. Take out the Rose Bowl game, which was 70,000. Take that out, and it averages over 16 games. It averages to 23,550.
Yeah.
So tell me if I'm wrong with that. That's what I have.
Matt will sort of
Matt will be up in my face. Big time.
No, I've seen his spreadsheets. They're better than mine. So usually I'm on Matt's side.
I do it this way.
Yeah, I know. You have to take your shoes off to go that high.
Yeah, that high. Exactly.
Mrs.
Panda got involved.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. LA Galaxy losers Seattle. The big deal, of course, is Miami coming up. And I do not believe the LA Galaxy will throw the kitchen sink at Miami. I believe that they're looking at Leagues Cup, and rightfully they should be. The chance for CONCACAF Champions Cup is with Leagues Cup. The playoffs are basically out of grasp. Playoffs. You want to talk about the playoffs? They're out of grasp. This is not something that they should focus on after Leagues Cup. After that's all done, after everything's played out there, you can worry about the league.
Think
games.
about the Galaxy are now like an EPL team. They don't have to worry about the playoffs.
They don't have to worry about the playoffs. They don't have to worry about relegation. So not like EPL team.
You know, the game in Miami is on a Saturday, okay? So then there's 4 days, until the Leagues Cup game. As you mentioned, it's going to be 90 and 90. I lived in Miami for 7.5 years. Mm-hmm. The humidity is unbelievable. And if you grow up there, you kind of get used to it. But the Galaxy, a lot of their guys are flying in and, kind of parachuting in, play a game. That humidity takes a lot out of you. And I think Greg Vanny is well aware of that. And anyone who, especially an older player, he's counting on for Leagues Cup is not going to be able to recover fully in 4 days. So I think that's something to think. I think you see a lot of young players who might be able to turn around and come back. But a guy like he has to play somebody at center back, but some of the older guys, Zaka and Yoshida, and maybe even Yamani, it's going to be really tough for them to turn around and come back from that humidity.
And Miami also has a game, right? So they're also getting ready for that. So does Miami rotate as well? Because they have a bunch of old guys, and you want to try to run them around in the heat and humidity and all that stuff. Luis Suarez and Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, right? So you could.
Well, they played those three. They didn't play Messi. They played the other three.
I know they played those three, but now they're going to be in Miami because they were in Orlando, which is not that far, but they were playing Orlando. Now they have a game right before. This is a full week rest, so everything should be. So what does that Miami game look like? And I think that's going to be sort of the question. We're going to talk about that game on Thursday. The Hammer's back in on Thursday, and yes, we're back to normal schedule thanks to Leagues Cup. We will have a Monday and Thursday show for this week, so we'll get to talk about Miami and all that fun stuff.
Well, Galaxy United are going to have to deal with that humidity too. Maybe they'll have some squad rotation.
Dude, don't you worry about a Galaxy Unified team. All right, those guys.
I keep saying United. I like Galaxy United better.
Yeah, no, it's not. The Galaxy Unified team. Those guys and gals will do just fine. Don't you worry about it. They're pumped. I could see it in their eyes. They're ready to go. They want to score some goals. They want to do the whole thing. So,
so they have a road trip just like the first team, right? They fly out, probably not charter, but they fly out, stay at a hotel, get up, have a team breakfast, the whole 9 yards.
They do that, and they also do like an event with the Miami team too. Like they'll do something to sort of get to know you event and like hang out with those guys, and then they'll go play against them after the big boys get done playing on the senior field. That's amazing.
That's so cool. You really should stick around. I've had a chance to see these games because, as you say, they take place on the field after the game. So we'll go down and we'll do our post-game stuff, and then I go back to the press box to write. The rest of you guys take off.
Yes.
I go back to the press box and write, and I watch these kids play while I'm writing my story. And as I said, the supporters have stayed a number of times, and it's been really kind of an electric atmosphere.
It'll be fun.
Really
but
cool.
that Colorado
you
game,
owe it to yourself to go see it if you get a chance.
Yeah, Colorado game. Whenever I'm done doing the post-game stuff, I'm going to run back out and get in the stands for those guys. So excited to do it. So again, thank you to the LA Galaxy Unified team for inviting me out. You're all amazing and wonderful. Glad to have you. So thank you for inviting me and my family out. It was a fun day. All over. Just makes you feel good about humanity on a regular basis, which is something new and exciting in this world. So all right, anything else? We're good. We're good.
We're good. Adios. I'm a ghost.
Yeah, you're gone. If you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on any social medias, at kbaxter11, latimes.com, you can find all of his articles. He's a baseball writer right now, so go check him out. You can learn about the Dodgers, but of course covering all those other sports as well, including soccer for the LA Times, latimes.com for Mr. Kevin Baxter. If you're looking for me on any of the social medias, it's at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com.
Don't forget the ring.
Spotify, and all those wonderful things that you can find us on. Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, any of those places you can find our podcast. We appreciate you hanging in there. Hope you have a wonderful Monday. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. We'll be back on Thursday. And don't forget, ring giveaway coming up. First name, last name, your email address. Send that over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. We'll pull a winner on Friday. All right, for Mr. Kevin, the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Patrick Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.